You have to love the idea of a car like this Vantage. It's when an automaker shoehorns the biggest engine it has, in this case a 5.9-liter V12, into the smallest chassis in the lineup. The result here is the V12 Vantage S, a beautiful sports car that's somewhere between the size of a BRZ and a Mustang, but with 566 horsepower, carbon ceramic brakes, and 3-stage adjustable dampers. Aston Martin says it's second only to the 750 horsepower 177 in 0 to 60 acceleration and top speed, a claimed 205 miles an hour. Aston claims 0 to 60 should take 3.7 seconds, but the Vantage fell short in our testing. Its single-clutch automated manual wouldn't engage aggressively enough no matter what combination of settings we tried. The result was always slow engagement followed by tire spin. At 4.1 seconds to 60 and 12.3 seconds to the quarter mile, it essentially ties the last Vanquish we tested. While acceleration fell short of expectations, the Vantage put down a respectable 23.9 second figure-8 lap time and generated an average 1.01 G, tying it with the 911 Carrera 4S and the SLS AMG.
I'll start by saying this is an absolutely terrific car, but that's kind of what you expect when you shoehorn a V12 of this size into a car of this size. This is a surprisingly small car with a whole hell of a lot of engine, and it's absolutely wonderful because of it. We have more power than the outgoing V12 Vantage. We're up to, 575, 560 around there, and a whole lot of torque, too. And the nice thing is that power comes in high in the RPM range. You really feel this engine pull harder as you rev it higher. It has a really linear power band. It also sounds absolutely terrific. When you really get in the meat of the power band, the sound gets lighter and sweeter. And it's pretty much the V12 noise you want to hear. The downside is, of course, it's connected to a single clutch automated manual. And it's basically a manual with an automated clutch. And it manages to combine all the downsides of a manual with none of the upsides that we can find. When you're driving through city streets, when you're commuting, driving around town, the upshifts are pretty bad. There's an interruption of torque that's quite frustrating, and all the head shake is pretty annoying. Once you get into the higher gears though, once you get on a mountain road, once you start going fast, it becomes less of an issue. Once you learn how to drive one of these transmissions, when you learn to lift off the throttle slightly before you shift like you would a manual transmission, it starts working better. And when you're driving fast, when you're driving flat out, begin to like it a little bit. I like the simplicity of it. I like how when you grab an upshift, there's this massive shake in the car and you're in the next gear cleanly, smoothly. Okay, maybe not smoothly, but you know you're in the next gear when you arrive into it. The transmission is the downside of this car, but the rest is absolutely fantastic. Okay, and being an Aston Martin, it has a very beautifully tailored interior. We have contrast stitching that matches the exterior paint. Everything's in a nice microfiber suede-like material. There's carbon fiber, this and that. Touching the roof is always a nice thing to do. And of course, being an Aston Martin, the infotainment stuff is always a little disappointing, but hey, that's par for the course with this company. One more downside we have to mention, there is no red line. For the life of me, why is there no red line in this car? You know when you need to shift because you're banging off the limiter. Oh yeah, that's fun. But why isn't there any sort of indicator on the tach that tells you when you're gonna do that? The gear indicator changes to red, but by the time you see that, it's too late. And if you're driving really fast, you don't have the time to look down and keep your eyes on that. This really taps into all the senses, aside from smell. Well, smelling and smoking the tires. But all the senses feel this car move around. I love the way this car loads up into corners and out of corners. The way it feels when you're getting on the power. It feels like it might oversteer, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It stays loaded. And it gives you a slight bit of rotation, which feels right when you're driving out of a corner. This car makes you laugh. This car just makes you feel real good.
Despite its serious shortcomings, the V12 Vantage S remains an exhilarating car on the road. And that illustrates its strength. Perhaps it's the exterior styling, or the interior appointments, or the theater of the entire experience, or a combination of all these things. But somehow, you manage to ignore the clumsy transmission and disappointing test track performance when you're behind the wheel, savoring the power band and the sound that accompanies it.